dating him for 3 months or so, and now I feel that this is not a real person. There were some indicators, and I want to share this with you. I'm like, all right, what's his name? So that was his name. I'm like, all right, I put that down, and I started creating this mind map that I'm sharing with you. And I got her permission to share this in front of you folks. So this is real, this is not made up. And I started digging deeper into the photos, into the name, and I couldn't Google the person, neither could she. So she's like, that was my biggest red flag. It's like, if you can't Google someone, yeah, that's a red flag. Everyone's Googleable at this point. So, but he wasn't. That name wasn't, that picture wasn't showing anything. I'm like, huh, that's weird. And then in conversation, he started saying, oh, I'm in Abu Dhabi right now. I'm a contractor for some construction company. And I'm like, all right, give me his phone number, because he was using some cell number. That cell number was a burner number, it was a voice over IP number. I'm like, all right, another red flag. So I was basically collecting red flags to kind of prove to her that the more the red flags you have, this is a scam. And then he was like, he's from Germany, but she noticed, because she talked to him, that he had a French accent, and she spoke German. So she's like, yeah, I know what German accents sound like, and this is not German. He sounded French. So another red flag. So then they quickly moved the conversation from cell phones, like text messaging, and he's like, come on Teams. And to me, that's a huge red flag, because who in their daily lives says, let's go to Teams? Of all the, like even in corporate worlds like Teams, come on. Like you go to WhatsApp or Signal or some other app that's more tied to social media, but not a corporate app like that for Teams. But anyway, she went to Teams with him. She had Teams, he had Teams. And so they started chatting there. I'm like, yeah, that's kind of weird as well. So I started gathering more and more information. And a lot of this was conversation, social engineering. Things that he said, I started documenting. Like he said, I work for this company called whatever, Turner Construction. I looked it up in Abu Dhabi. I looked up the records of like LLCs and stuff like that. Did not exist. I'm like, it doesn't exist here either. It's a very generic name. So I couldn't find the company either. I'm like, if me as an investigator within the first 30 seconds cannot find basic information about a person, their phone number, dead end, their name, dead end, their image, reverse image searches, dead end, yeah, this is truly a scam. This is a well-rounded scammer. He knows what he's doing. And then the romance started. So this was a romance scam, essentially. He's like, oh, I love you. I can't live without you. He literally said, I'm falling for you. I'm like, it's just been a few weeks that you've been talking. How is he falling for you? I'm like, have you ever met him? She's like, no, I've never met him. I'm like, have you seen his video, like a video chat or something? She's like, yeah, I've seen him on video. So he's real. She's like, yeah, he's real. The lesson here is, and I was in sales for the majority of my career, the lesson here is the customer is always lying. You say the customer is always right? No, the customer is always lying. We do investigations all the time, Luke and myself, and we always have this at the back of our head that whatever we hear, we take with a grain of salt. They're not lying purposefully, they just don't know the full truth. So when she said, I've spoken to him over video, I'm like, let's pause here because he's not real. How did you, was it like deep fake or something? I'm like, what does his face look like? Does he have a mustache? I started being very specific. She's like, oh, I didn't see his face. I'm like, oh, what did you see? I'm like, I saw his feet. I'm like, what? How? She's like, he was walking in sand and he had a video of his feet, and that's it. That was the video evidence. So I spoke to him on video, quote unquote. I'm like, but you didn't see his face, so you didn't. It was someone else. So things like that, when you hear from people, that was a lesson for me. I'm like, all right, don't believe everything you hear or see. You need to verify with evidence. So that was one piece of evidence. And then within a few days, it was the conversation went to, yeah, you're the one, let's tie the knot, let's get married. She was like, no, send me more pictures. Send me pictures of where you work, if not yourself. He's like, oh, I'm a private person. I'm like, all right, send pictures of where you work. He sent this exact picture. I'm like, this is a stock image of some construction site. I'm like, this was Googleable. So I'm like, yeah, this is not a real picture. And then he's like, he elevated his romance scam, suddenly went to the emotional side and said, oh, my mother's in a nursing home and she needs surgery and I need money. I'm like, there we go. Like, there was something about to happen. And I'm like, did you send him money? He's like, no, I didn't send him money. He didn't want money directly. He wanted to log into his bank account and make a wire transfer from his account to some other person's account who's going to pay for the medical fees. I'm like, well, what nonsense is this? And she's like, yeah, well, the US works different. In Abu Dhabi, you have to pay first to get medical attention. And since he's a foreigner, I'm like, listen, I've been to Abu Dhabi many times. This is not how it works there either. Anyways, I said, give me the URLs, because now you have more evidence. So the URL of the bank account that she logged into on his behalf was that one, easycombn.com. I looked at the login page, that's what it looked like. Then I looked at the registration details, the whois records of who owns this website. And a lot of red flags here. The first red flag was email is a Gmail account, a bank. I mean, come on, this is a red flag. The other one is Nigeria, country registered Nigeria. Like at this point, anything that's Nigerian is a scam. So it's by default unless proven otherwise. And then the amount of, does it say when it was registered here? No, on the next screen it probably does say. The registration date, we'll come to that in a second, but it was like a year that this domain has been registered. That's a new domain, so it's, again, a scam. And then it kind of elevated more that, oh, I'm afraid for my life, I need you to make another transaction, and then some banking details. So it was a weird scam where he was likely using someone else's name and bank account details. He was a money mule, or involving more money mules. And eventually, after digging into more emails, email chains, he used a Proton Mail account. Like, not to say Proton is shady. I use Proton for my own company. We have a Proton email as well. But a lot of scammers use it because it's encrypted. They're in Switzerland. You can't really get a subpoena with them easily. So he was using that, and then a different URL. And that URL on hooksy.org was registered a year ago. And I'm like, what bank registers their domain a year ago? So again, red flag after red flag. I don't need to tell you guys this is like a clear-cut scam. But for her, she's an executive. She's like, but I don't think it's a scam. It may be. She was like, in 2 months. I'm like, how can you be in 2 months after all this evidence? It's the emotional side of things. People get tied up in the emotions. That's how these, romance scams operate. So for me, it was like, I was looking at this technically. I wasn't emotionally involved. But I had to convince her with this mind map. I'm saying, all right, this is truly a scam. And as soon as she confronted him, he deleted everything. Deleted the email, deleted that website went down, the Teams thing he was on suddenly went down, and then she contacted me. I'm like, yeah, it's kind of too late. The evidence is pretty much gone now, or it was being deleted as we spoke. So at the end of the day, I create these mind maps to kind of show people this is the flow of information, this is how you investigate, and here's how you come to logical conclusions. Don't let emotions take the better of you. So I was curious. I'm like, who's this image, which I can't Google, which I can't reverse image search? So I'm like, I gotta find this guy. He's probably a victim as well. So I started reverse image searching using tools like Lenzo.ai, PimEyes, and stuff. And this was like, it usually takes me 10 seconds to figure this out. This took me a good 10 minutes. So I'm like, wow, this is deep. So it was a challenge for me. So I'm like, I'm gonna try everything in my tool set to figure out who this guy is. So as you can see, I'm trying all these popular tools. I'm struggling, I'm turning VPNs on and off, and I'm retrying and stuff. So I haven't edited this out at all to kind of show you this is what I go through. And I've sped up the video to like a minute or two total, but this took me 10 minutes. So I started captcha after captcha. Like, they don't make it easy for you to investigate. But after I passed most of these things, most people would have given up at this point. Like, oh, I tried 3, 4 different websites, I give up. But here I found similar images. That was not the actual image, but I'm like, yeah, that's the same guy, but in a different pose. So I'm like, this guy does exist. He's in a crowd somewhere. He seems to be like a reporter or someone in the background. He's not that popular, so he's not showing up, but he's in pictures somewhere. So I had to figure out which pictures he's in, like dig deeper. So this website, Lenzo.ai, he also, I think, showed up here in one of the pictures. Yeah, right there. So I'm like, he exists somewhere. And there's some background information there. So I'm like, let me read that. It says something in a different language, Spanish, I believe. So I'm like, I don't speak Spanish. And then there's a paywall. I'm like, it's foggy. What do? I just go on the HTML side, and there's a little class there that's blurring it. So I just delete that class from the front end. Somewhere there I find that class. I think it says locked right there. I can actually see it, so I'll get to it in a second. Right there. So locked. I delete the class, and it unblurs. So again, hacker mentality. I'm like, if you're going to put a paywall in front of me, I'm going to bypass it because that's what I do. So I figured out that word in Spanish. Again, I don't need to speak the language. I just need to investigate. And I started searching the word in different contexts with the website in it, without it, with quotes in it. And I'm like, I'm getting closer. I can see the same garbage can, the same background as he was standing in. I'm like, all right, it's somewhere. I just need to figure out what video he was in the background of. So I started playing these videos and seeing if I can find the same background. So this falls more under GeoInt as well, trying to figure out clues, something in common. And I keep going by it, and eventually I find one of these pictures, the two metal cans right there. So I'm like, all right, at least I've geolocated this image. I know where it was taken. And then I figure out what website it was on. So as you can see, this process is not easy. It takes persistence. And I took this on as a challenge. I'm like, I will find him. This is not an option. It's just a matter of time. And I looked through hundreds of videos trying to spot that person with that same background. And eventually something clicks in that image. And you'll see that I don't find the primary image, but I find a related image somewhere. And again, this is good because you're seeing my entire process of all my failures. All it takes is one success. So here in the related image on the right, I see his face right there. And I'm like, cool. So he wasn't even in the primary search. He was in the related search section. So I'm like, all right, I found it. I found the video. And then I play the video. And in the video, you'll see his whole interview. And then his name will be there. So he's basically a Spanish reporter somewhere. In Malaga, Spain. And his name was not even in the thing there, it was in the video, Manu Garcia right there. So now I finally found the guy whose image was being used for romance scams. I'm like, man, these scammers went through a lot to find an image of a guy who's, I don't know, not that popular, wasn't searchable. So anyways, I found the guy, I found his social media. So see, when you find one piece of solid evidence, then you can pivot off to so many things. Now his entire life was unraveled in front of me, and I was like, all right, cool, I found that one piece of information, and now his LinkedIn, his X account was there, I found his LinkedIn account, his Instagram account, everything about him. And that was the same watch in the original picture right there. So I'm like, all right, same home, same person. I was confident I found the guy. And then somewhere here, you'll see stuff about his life as well. As you scroll down, and then I informed the person, I'm like, here's the guy, you want to talk to him? She's like, yeah, let's call him and stuff. So I tried to reach out to him, he wouldn't answer, but he was interested as well, like who's using my images and stuff. And he didn't want to know any further than that. He's like, it's a scam, whatever, so we didn't really speak on it. But I mean, this is me unraveling the whole incident piece by piece. So it was an interesting story to tell people that you can find anything and everything if you put your mind to it, and you need to know all these techniques. The other case I'll show you, which was recent and which uses a few more techniques, is this guy. Similar story. So this is called the masked magician. And the masked magician is an annoyance. He takes other people's secrets and reveals them in his videos. And he has 2.7 million followers. So he's a big deal. I know a lot of magicians in the magic community, and they reached out to me, and they're like, as a challenge, can you find out who this is? Can you unmask the masked magician? He's way too popular, and he's revealing all of our tricks. They sell books and stuff, so he's pirating, he's buying these things, and he's showing how it's done. And it affects the livelihood of a lot of legitimate magicians out there. I'm like, yeah, I can probably figure out who he is. I left it for months and months, and I'm like, yeah, this is not, I don't have time for this. Recently, I think last week, I'm like, all right, let me give it a shot. It took me 1 hour to figure out who he is. And this is me last night going through all those, my process again from scratch. And this is like a 1 hour worth video compressed in 5 minutes. I just forwarded some of the stuff. But again, I didn't delete anything from this. So I find stuff about him, but he's very good. So I look at his Gmail address because he has an email address publicly available. I'm like, that should be enough for me. But when you Google his stuff, you see all his public profiles, all the Facebook, Instagram stuff. I'm like, all right, I'm back to square one with an email address. It's not showing me something new. He didn't leak much information. But it's also Gmail, so I'm like, he's not using a domain and stuff, he's using public stuff. So I start looking at his videos. I'm like, maybe I can spot something else that he left, a clue in his video. Sometimes if you look at more settings and you find more links, and that's what I did. I found Italy, it said Italy. I'm like, all right, I'm getting closer. Now I know he's an Italian magician or Italian person. And then he had a Linktree link. Now it reveals 5 more places for me to look at. Here's a tool called EPOS, which takes a Gmail address and does some reconnaissance on it. But what I want was, if a person has a Gmail address, they also have Google reviews attached to it. To get to Google reviews, you need that Google ID, which was right there, and then his Google Maps thing pops up. And unfortunately, he had no reviews. Usually people have reviews on where they eat, where they get their oil changed and stuff, and it kind of shows you where they live. But unfortunately, this was a dead end for me. So I'm like, all right, let's try more techniques. And I keep going on and on. I do Google dorking here because all I'm getting are false positives for me. I'm getting his legitimate stuff. So I did minus site colon stuff, so I would remove all the official stuff and maybe find something else. And then I have Linux-based tools. This is Kali Linux. I go on a tool called Olihi. I put his Gmail there. What this tool does is it goes through multiple websites, and it tells me where this email address is registered. And the result it'll show you, he has a Firefox account, an Office 365, and a Twitter account. So Firefox, I can't get much information from. Sure, he has Twitter. Yeah, not too much. He probably has an official Twitter account. But Office 365, that was unique. This is a Gmail account, and he has a Hotmail or Office 365 account attached to it. So I do a password reset. It gives me another redacted piece of information. It gives me a partial phone number. I'm like, cool, I'm getting somewhere. He has an account. I have some digits of his phone number, 66. So I'm like, all right, I know another technique up my sleeves for Outlook accounts specifically. This is a very top secret technique, which I'm going to reveal right now. If you have a OneDrive account and you share a folder with someone here who also has an Outlook account, so I'm sharing it with this email right now, and you do copy link, it actually resolves it to their name. And it resolved it to Mago Dominique. So this is an API call that happens in the background, which I knew about. So now I know his name is Mago Dominique, Dominic, whatever. But later I found out Mago means magic in Italian. So I have half a name. I have Dominic, at least. So then I search for that Mago Dominic, and this guy pops up. It says Mago Dominic right underneath. So I'm like, huh, is this the masked magician? Well, I don't know. Now I have this challenge of correlating my suspect with the target. So I'm like, can I figure out if this guy, some old magician, he's like 20 years ago, his videos are like 15, 16 years old. His social media is pretty old. I'm like, this looks like a retired magician. It could be this guy, but I need evidence. I need something that ties the two together. So believe it or not, what I was looking for was his hands, because that's the only thing I can see with the masked magician. I can only see his hands when he's doing tricks. He covers his face. So here I was like, all right, let's look at his hands. Let's look at other stuff he's doing in the background. Maybe something leaked somewhere. And I really don't know what I'm looking for. I'm looking for the door frame, the picture at the back, and I'm taking mental notes at this point because this is information overload. I look at the tiles there. I look at the plant. There's a little pot. So this is the suspect. This is probably the guy, but I'm taking mental notes. This is why I take screenshots like this. Now, with all that mental stuff fresh in my mind, I look at the magician. Look at the tiles. They're the same tiles, but that's a very common tile. So I'm like, all right, not good enough. I need to find something else that's still fresh in my mind that's also with this masked magician. I looked through thousands of videos. I sped this to 800 times speed. I looked at a lot of videos. And then finally he reveals himself here. But he obviously doesn't. He's mocking me here. He's like, he doesn't want to be found. So I look at other polls. There's multiple groups of the person. So I'm like, all right, let's look at alternate groups of this same guy. Eventually going down, I'm looking for the odd one out, the video that is different from the rest. So I'm looking at the background. You see the background changed. In this background, there's a flower pot. And I recognize this and the tiles. And then I look at the other one, my suspect, that's the one on the right, and there's also the flower pot. And it's the exact same one. So at this point, I expect applause. I'm joking. This took me a while. When I saw this, I jumped in joy. I'm like, yes! And my wife was like, what happened? What'd you find? I'm like, no, this is something personal, like a personal achievement. I'm like, because I call it luck, but people call this luck. I don't call this luck. I call this persistence. I spent an hour doing this. And then everything fell in place. Now that little contraption he used, the blue thing over there, matches there as well in the background. These glasses he used in a magic trick are the same glasses in his background over there. Now all these little things started popping up. I'm like, okay, now it's pretty obvious. So I kind of unlocked one thing. It led to everything else falling in place. So, and then one by one, I looked at other things. I'm like, maybe his laptop has something, on it, because I often find like usernames on it and stuff. He didn't, but in this screen as well, he's like showing his room and stuff. And then on the top right, I can actually see the flower pot as well. So further confirmation that, yep, I'm on the right track. So this was exciting because this shows that, there's no one technique that works. You got to try them all, and you got to keep trying, and then eventually you will find results that you're satisfied with. So I was able to unmask the masked magician, and then find his name, and then I found a new email address. I went to pentester.com. I put his Italian email address in there because now I knew who the guy was, and then eventually I found breaches. I found his full phone number in that breach. I found his date of birth, full date of birth, his old passwords, weak passwords there. And I basically now, at this point, I found everything I need to know about this guy, more than anything. Good on time?
Yeah, we're just done, so
yeah. 2 minutes?
Yeah, just end it, and then
yeah, I'm just ending it. So to end this guy actually had this statement saying that, we managed to overcome profiles that were using my videos and identity without my consent. Well, come on, you're stealing other people's stuff as well. So that's what kind of motivated me to kind of expose this guy. And at the end, I'll show you one final trick. Once I knew who the guy was, that email address that I always had of the guy, I could have just sent him some money on PayPal. Because if you go to PayPal and try to send him money, it shows his real name, Leonardo Cimenti. I'm like, yep, that was the guy. But I got to that last. So I always say try everything. And the OSINT is huge. There's a huge web of information you can look for. And at the end of the day, if you try to think different, you will solve problems. So my advice always has been to think like a hacker. Thank you.
Mishaal, are you going to be around?
Yep.
Mishaal tends to take crowds from everywhere, so I purposely pushed back the track 2 talk because it's also a very good talk by Corey Michael, but I knew it was competing against this guy, and I'm like, no one's going to go there then, but Corey's is also very good. It's on SaaS Kill Chains, and if you guys were on the panel, it's on SaaS Kill Chains, and Attack Adversary actually is going to talk about what's been happening from a breach perspective and what types of attackers and how they're getting in SaaS organizations. He's a CISO for a SaaS security company, so definitely check it out on track 2. It starts in the next couple minutes. But that said, Mishaal's around. So if you want to grab him, this guy's hard to find. He's in Chicago, but I'm in Chicago. I don't ever see him in Chicago. I only see him outside of Chicago. So yeah, track him down and talk to him too. He's, he's a wealth of information. I always, good job, man. Thanks, appreciate it. Yeah. All right, thanks guys.